What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. Just want to actually say, I really appreciate all of your support. Whenever I get an order for anything, I am very humbled. It's, as many of you guys know, it's been a long journey. It's been an unconventional path and that I've taken, and it has led me to ideas that are unconventional. And take what I say with a grain of salt. I am giving you exactly what I feel is the truth, given my experience. It may seem extreme in some ways, and I'm totally open to the possibility that I am extreme in many of my opinions. But I think you guys tune in because you get that extreme point of view. You get that point of view that is from somebody who did travel an unconventional path. And so that's what I'm giving you. I think that that's what my, quote unquote, that's what my value is for you guys, is that you didn't have to travel the path that I traveled. Trust me, you probably wouldn't want to. But it has led me to, like I said, some rather eccentric points of view. For example, just as an example, the pitching machine point of view that I have, a lot of people tend to disagree with me, and all I can say is I'm giving you my point of view. I think I would try not to use pitching machines at all. I think that once you have one, it's kind of like I have a family of all girls but myself, and my three girls, my wife and two daughters, they eat a lot of popcorn, and I always want them to not get the popped popcorn that is in a microwave that takes 3 minutes to warm up, but they get it anyways. I want to make them the popcorn. It takes longer. It's a lot more work for me to do that, but I'm willing to do it because of the healthiness of popcorn that I make. I can put, my butter in it, and there's not a lot of additives in it and stuff like that. So, but as long as we have the bags of popcorn, we tend to say, I'll just throw it in there. If you have a pitching machine, then you're not going to be likely to go out and look for somebody to throw to your team. That's what I would do. I would actually invest the time to find a rotation of people who could throw to my team. Half lefties, half righties, whatever. Maybe it's alumni. Anyways, I would make that effort. But if you have a pitching machine, I can see myself not making that effort. Anyways, I appreciate you guys out there so much. And let's get into what we're going to talk about today. First of all, I'm going to rip on conventional instruction. Honestly, nothing against these guys personally, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on some conventional instruction videos that I've seen on Instagram, and then we'll get into the Willie Mays Aaron Judge analysis. Okay, so let's play this.
The best tool in baseball right now, because it's so flimsy, it forces you to stay inside the ball and extend through the middle.
So let's just take a look at that swing. This is the swing that's being taught, guys. And I know a lot of you guys out there will say it's not as popular as you think it is. To me, it is the Aaron Judge swing. It's all the same thing. I mean, it's a characteristic swing. We all could stand up and do the Aaron Judge swing that's so popular right now. Everyone's teaching it, and I'm so amazed that that's not being recognized. Like, again, I'm not sure why instructors feel the need to post videos, really, because everyone's saying the same thing. If I was out there, I'd just be like, hey, everyone else has it taken care of. I don't need to post any videos. But, I mean, at least if you're going to post videos, like, do something different, But, look, he's hanging on his back leg, obviously, just rotating off his back leg. He's basically not gotten anything out of his arms. You notice the arms just basically fire from here. They're basically statue still until he fires from here. That's probably the main thing that I have a problem with the conventional swing of today. If they want to hang back on their back leg, I mean, you're diminishing a lot of power unnecessarily. If you want to, even if you want to throw your hands and have direction, I think, like I said last time, I think direction means basically ensuring that your hands are firing out to a certain field or something. I don't know. But all that is your body's essentially slowing its rotation or even coming to a halt almost, and then your hands are firing outward, and then you're continuing your rotation as your hands finish. So, but that's, if people wanted to do that, I mean, it's neither here nor there for the most part, but this is the main issue I have with the modern conventional swing. Same thing with Skank. All he's saying, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. To get in an argument about what he advocates is kind of getting, in my book, off in left field, because I don't really care about the things that he's trying to get hitters to do. It's like he's not even focusing on the things that actually matter to my mind. So the hands just fire out from there. You're missing. It's hard to get the body involved. First of all, there are plenty of things wrong with it. You're going to make contact way out, disconnected. By the time the bat finally squares, you're completely disconnected. You're not getting your body involved, really. It's more of a handsy swing. And you're delaying the barrel from squaring, like I said, until way too late. You're just going to end up flipping at the ball. And you can see the flip being worked on right there.
In through the middle instead of casting around, which is kind of easy to do with a regular bat, especially when you're training bat speed. All you need.
Okay, so again, he's saying that coming. I think he called it coming around the ball. Whatever they call it, dragging the barrel, coming around the ball. You can say it a few different ways, but this is just another example of how people have just fully bought into this notion of dragging the barrel being like this bad thing about getting that lead arm nice and straight and then dragging the barrel. For a moment in the swing, that needs to happen. And the problem is when you diss on that move, you're disabling people from ever achieving that position, even though it is just momentarily. It is very important. We just pass through it. It's not really even a position. It's a frame that we pass through in our movement. That's a better way to say it, because these are all movements. We've gotten way too position-oriented in swing instruction.
Do is throw it over your shoulder, load back, and force.
See, that swing, there's absolutely nothing involved in it except for like a still rotation. This is, once again, like this swing here, that is not a good swing, guys. I mean, you will literally not see one great pound-for-pound hitter consistently get into a contact position like this, and yet this is the position that he wants you to train. And there's the flip. I mean, you can see, look at that flip. People just aren't aware of what good positioning is, honestly. They haven't even begun to explore that because they don't even have the right sampling. That they're not even on the pound-for-pound page. They're just looking at any good hitter of today or yesterday and saying, copy him, whatever he's doing. And actually, this isn't even, I mean, this whole modern swing is based on Barry Bonds. Say what you want. I am pretty perspicacious when it comes to swing instruction. I've been paying attention. To my mind, from my point of view, this all stemmed from Barry Bonds. I mean, even if Richard Skank didn't base his whole theory on Barry Bonds, that's what everyone else was doing. However, yeah, he may have hung back a little bit more on his back leg. He did have 50 extra pounds than the normal person. That's a caveat. That's a rabbit hole we could go down. Yeah, he hung back a little bit on his back leg, but he was very lead arm dominant. That's the thing that matters that no one's talking about. they're kind of picking and choosing all these different things that they feel like they see in Barry Bonds' swing, but they're missing the main component because it's hard to see with the naked eye. And so they're getting that wrong, and they have this flippy swing like this guy has.
Which is why I have a lot of my athletes use this to make sure they're using their body right and not just their hand.
Well, that's funny that he said, and not just their hands, because that's exactly what he's doing in his swing. He's essentially using all hands. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone because I can't believe like the actual opposite is being said so often. We'll see. We'll see if swing instruction like starts to get a handle on things and starts to make a little bit more sense to me, at least. I don't know. Maybe it's making sense to some of you guys. To me, it seems to be completely backwards. Here's a video of Ellie De La Cruz. I like Ellie De La Cruz. I like his swing. Man, just imagine, guys, if he took steroids. I mean, this is one of those guys I think about, like, imagine if Oscar Gamble took steroids, you know? It's just not fair. That's why it's not fair. The steroid era didn't just cheat against guys in their own league who weren't taking, which are plenty of guys, even though people say everyone was taking. No, not everyone was. But they also cheated against every other player in the history of Major League Baseball and going forward. And Ellie De La Cruz, if he had gained 50 pounds of muscle, just imagine. I mean, that is scary. That is scary. So, but I like his swing. I love the way he secondary cushions. And that's what we're going to see in this video. Sent to me by someone on Instagram, and I appreciate all you guys sending me this stuff on Instagram. It's awesome. Here he is. So, look at that cushion. He just does it so naturally, and people don't even really think of it. To me, he developed this because of sandlot ball. That's what people are not getting these days, is sandlot ball. When you see more pitches coming out of pitchers' hands, and at a young age, because I truly think that from the age of 0 to 10, let's just say, before we hit puberty, our ability to learn is just insane. I mean, if you haven't picked up on that, I mean, I don't even know what to tell you, because that's pretty clear. And I think that we're just, in every way, we're able to learn quicker. And when you're playing sandlot ball, your body just realizes, hey, I got to learn a secondary cushion move. Obviously, it doesn't use the terminology. It's just subconscious, but it realizes that I got to learn something because they're throwing these off-speed pitches. And look at this. We'll watch it in regular motion here. Look at that. So something you guys could do if you're really in love with pitching machines and you feel like you have to use them, at least what you could do is try to incorporate some good drills incorporating the secondary cushion. So I would have guys stride, I would say stride, and then let them do like a long secondary cushion on every single pitch. So after their foot hits, then at some point after that, you release the ball. And that way they're working on either a 1/10 of a second secondary cushion or a 1 second secondary cushion or maybe even a 2 second secondary cushion, so they can really hang out like De La Cruz does. He's very comfortable just hanging out in a secondary cushion. You saw that was like a half a second. So that's probably a good drill you could do with a pitching machine. The secondary cushion is a huge opportunity. I see that it's more important that guys are lead arm dominant or use more of their lead side and less of their back arm extension. I see that as the most important thing. But a close second is, man, after that, get the secondary cushion. Just hone a good secondary cushion like your life depended on it. Like, just become obsessed with mastering the secondary cushion. Basically, that's what the skank crowd and the whole, conventional modern day swing is trying to solve, which is, hey, you can swing at any moment. But they're sacrificing a hell of a lot to do that. They're saying you can swing at any moment, but keep your weight all the way back on your back leg. That's a huge sacrifice. You're not getting your body weight into the hit. And frankly, we're going to look at his swing later. Aaron Judge, yes, he hits a lot of homers, guys. But we're talking about the biggest guy who ever stepped into a batter's box. He is 280. That's a full 80 pounds than someone who's already heavy. Okay, Barry Bonds gained 40 pounds and basically doubled his home run production. So imagine another 40 pounds on top of Barry Bonds. And he's pretty lean. It's mostly muscle weight, Aaron Judge and Bonds, but also Aaron Judge. So the guy is just enormous. And honestly, a lot of his home runs are pokes. They're like, clearly you can see that had a regular sized guy hit some of his home runs, it would have been an out. And I think that goes for quite a bit of his home runs. This goes back to, look at the right people. The pound for pound greats is where we really should be looking. Okay, so here's another video that someone sent me on Instagram. That was what this guy believes is a bad swing. So let's just see what he's trying to do that's bad. So he's trying to say that, like, if you slide your back hip, that I'm trying to think of the terminology that people would use to say that it's a bad thing. Excuse me. So he's like sliding his back hip or something.
膝が伸びるとか足首が伸びて回転できない。そしてお尻が上がる。お尻が低い状態で回らずにお尻が
He's saying, I can translate this. I know Japanese. He's saying, I bought into conventional instruction, and I'm going to tell you the wrong way to do it now. No, I shouldn't be a jerk. But, okay, so it says, keep your hips low and your hips go up. So this is the idea that it's a knee-jerk kind of idea. It's in golf as well. It's that that your hips slide. Again, people see like the slices basically, and what they think is, oh, it's your. They see that either the club head or the barrel is dragging, right? And so they equate that with either dragging at the start of the swing. In baseball, that's what they typically blame it on. In golf, more than baseball, they blame it on this sliding move. So again, they're seeing the club head or barrel slide, and so they're saying that must be what the body's doing. The body is sliding, which causes the barrel to slide. But that's kind of, you can see it's an oversimplification, which ends up actually making it way more convoluted than it needs to be, ironically. But
上がっていってしまう。スイングに入っていった瞬間にスッと伸びていってしまう。
So the moment I step into the swing, it stretches.
この曲げている動作が必要な。
I need this bending
そこから
action.
回転していく。
From there, it goes spinning. Again, guys, it's just different ways of saying pretty much the same thing. These guys are all advocating for the same kind of swing. It's hanging back on your back leg. It's an anti-rotation paradigm. That's what it is. We're living through a paradigm in baseball swing instruction. I want you guys to be able to see that. I mean, all these guys are basically advocating for the same look. It's a stay back. It's a stay in your, that your spine angle is tilted this much at the start of the swing. Keep it that way throughout the whole swing. It's this stiff kind of action that ends up looking like this guy is looking exactly through contact and at the finish. It's a very tight, limited, restricted is a good word for it, action. Don't let your kids or you fall into this. It's a huge advantage you guys can have right now if you don't fall into this trap, because so many of your competitors are falling into it. And it seems like, oh my God, so many other people are doing it. It can't be wrong. Guys, we can look at points in history, I don't have to name them, where you could see large masses of people advocating for a certain idea that we only later find not only to be wrong, but to be absolutely ludicrous, right? The same thing is going on in swing instruction now. And guys are thinking that they're real different in their approach, but they're basically all advocating for the same thing, and meanwhile missing the only key component there is. So what you need to do is drop everything drop this box that they want you to be kind of put into. Actually get rid of that because it's only hindering you. But then do the only thing that matters. But do it freely without the restrictions that they want you to be in.
胸が前傾を保てるわけです。
Oh, when we
Okay, so notice that swing. Wow. And you guys can see we're going to get to a lecture being given. Look at this swing that he's advocating for. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Look at that. Like, think about the movement that he was doing to start the video. That's a way better natural movement. You're shifting some weight into the hit. Of course, you need to shift weight. Guys, I know there are off-speed pitches. There's the secondary cushion for that. But don't sacrifice weight shift. That's actually, it's pretty hard to be lead arm dominant without having a weight shift. You can do it. Barry Bonds was very lead arm dominant. He didn't have a huge weight shift, but he did have some. Bagwell, he was pretty lead arm dominant with not a lot of weight shift. But I think it's way better, and you're going to see more of the top pound-for-pound hitters have a big weight shift because that's what you need to put the weight into the hit. But look at this swing that I mean, guys, use your own eyes. You can see that that doesn't look right. Have you ever noticed that? Look at the smallest guys in your league who hit for the most power. The guys who aren't just huge dudes, just regular sized guys, but hit for consistent power. And take a look at their action. It's going to be very nice, aesthetically pleasing to the eye. It's going to be a beautiful action. This is not. All right, let's listen to. This is. I got called out for not mentioning these guys' names. Anyways. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't remember his name. But Pelotero is the app that he sells. I don't know what the app does. But anyways, let's listen to what he says here.
look at the rotation, the checkpoint that I look for is this front hip working back? If you shift into the front hip, the swing arc's getting dragged forward. The rotation's not clean. It's now more of like a hinge swing. It's not.
So I don't really. Here's the problem I have with this. One, is he saying that this happens in the swing? I think he's saying, no, this happens only in great swings. And is he saying that the hip never should go forward at all? Like it sounds like he doesn't want you shifting weight into the front hip. Once again, I'm not out here saying shift a lot of weight, I'm not like raising that flag. That's not my point. My flag is more lead side. If you want to not shift weight doing that, then I'm all for it. If you want to shift weight, I'm all for it. I think it's better to shift weight. But again, here's another guy who's just bought into the conventional swing, which is the stay back. We all know the look, the Aaron Judge swing. Everyone's advocating for it, and they're just kind of picking different pieces to focus on. But it's the same general look. It's hanging back on the back leg. And here he's basically trying to make it sound like really like convoluted and like esoteric and, I don't know, scientific. But he's just saying stay back, I think. And how would you measure this? Here's another problem I have. Like, I like looking at the hands and arms in relation to the bat because there are minute things that you can clearly see. It's almost like everything that you've done with your body before the arms and hands start getting into the position of contact. It's like it drastically inflates and like blows up to a almost a comic degree the traits that you had before. So in other words, it just shows better when I look at the relationship between the arms and the bat, basically, through contact. There's a lot that it says to me. So it's easier to look at that and say, this is what's going on. Are you going to look at a guy's hip and know exactly what's going on? And going back to what I said before, is this a difference maker in the great swings, or is this just something Barry Bonds did? You know what I mean? Basically, is it just something Barry Bonds did? Because that's what we seem to be doing. We seem to be just looking at Barry Bonds. If you want to take the good thing that Barry Bonds did, then you're going to have to start taking some Mexican supplements. I'm sorry. It's not the mechanics that... I'm not saying his swing was bad. I still think he's a pound-for-pound great. But what led him to be hands down the greatest hitter? Like, it's not even close for the 3 years. What was it, 2001, 03, and 04? Hands down the best hitter of all time. You'll never see, I won't say you never will see, but you've never seen a hitter do as well as he did for those 3 years. But let's call a spade a spade. Anyways, that's another rabbit hole.
It's not tight rotation. The back hip's going to come forward. The front hip's going to come back.
Let me just hear what he had to say before that.
The rotation's not clean. It's now...
Pretty ambiguous language.
If you shift into the front hip...
Okay. If you shift into the front hip, so he's not he's against shifting weight into the front hip. Again, just more of the stay back stuff.
Swing arc's getting dragged forward.
The swing arc is getting dragged forward. No explanation there. But see, people just let him go. No one raises their hand and says, explain exactly what you mean. The swing arc is being dragged forward. No. This is more of the, if your body, comes up, then that means your bat's going to drag. If your body's pulling, then your bat is dragging. No, that's not the way it works.
The rotation's not clean.
The rotation's not clean. No, again, nobody raises their hand and says, what does that mean?
Now more of like a hinge swing.
I don't get that. I mean, aren't your hands going to unhinge? I don't know. I've been looking in the swing for decades, and I don't understand what he's saying. And I don't agree with anything he's saying. But the biggest thing I want to point out is I don't even understand it. A hinge swing. I don't know. Maybe you guys can explain it to me, but you don't have to. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying I disagree.
It's not tight rotation. The back hip's going to come forward.
It's not tight. That's more of swing instruction, wanting tight. Tight is better. That's what instruction in most sports mistakenly believe. They just think that the tighter, like if you look at boxing, you'll go to a class, they want to teach you this. Why? No way. I would teach the circular punch in a second. I mean, that, you have a much better chance. I mean, if you want to teach both, that's fine. But for sure, spend at least 50% of the time on a circular punch. That's going to deliver the most possible force. So, are you trying to stay in a fight for a while, or are you trying to end it quickly?
The front hip's going to come back. I would love to have a billion conversations about...
So, and also I want to point out, like, again, what is he saying by the front hip is coming back? Because even in Bonds, like, if you look at it, the background, look at his front hip. It goes forward like 5 inches there, and then maybe it goes back to where it started. So did it even... So what exactly is he saying? Again, it's just so ambiguous. The language of swing instruction has been so ambiguous for so many years, and they're still getting away with it, guys. You need to pinpoint these guys on exactly what they're saying.
Conversations about how that happens. See here, his back foot has an early release with the heel. Aerial tendencies, right?
Aerial
There's a lot of hitters
tendencies.
who have this early release. Ken Griffey Jr., aerial. So there's...
So what? Okay, you're saying these things that happen in these great hitters' swings, but are you expecting someone to think about their back foot? Like, what is your "and so" after that? Okay, so you've pointed out, I don't even know what he's pointed out with the back foot, but say he sees something, I don't know. Is he insinuating that we should focus on the movement of the back foot through the swing? Is there some secret that if you have a certain, or what is he saying? I mean,
so much variation within what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say you have to hit like Bonds. I'm saying when good hitters swing, their front hip works back. It's a checkpoint.
here's a good hitter, Willie Mays. Okay, look at his front hip. Okay, so we'll look at his front hip in a second, but I just want to say I wanted to do Willie Mays versus Aaron Judge because Willie Mays is my pound for pound number one. I've compared Aaron Judge to Ken Griffey Jr., and I probably should do that again in a future video. But Willie Mays is, like I said, according to my equation, which it may not be the best, but it's the best that I can come up with. I'm not a mathematician. Check out Sonny's list. He's also got a great a list as well. You can email me if you want to know how to get that. So Mays is my pound for pound number one. And this is essentially my method, the swing that I would say I advocate versus what is being advocated today. And I think Aaron Judge really exemplifies what is being taught today. Everyone's jumping on board, you know? Let's call a spade, guys. Everyone's jumping on board to the Aaron Judge swing. Can we all agree on that? Let's take a look at them. So Mays, Tewksbury, that's it. That's his name. So Tewksbury was saying, you know, this is a checkpoint. This is basically, he's saying this is what all great hitters have to do. This is what you have to do to have a great swing. Forget great hitters, because there are many skills of hitting. To have a great swing, this is what I've gathered from his talk, that short segment, is that a great swing needs to have the hips just work back. You can't shift your weight to the front side and shift onto that front hip. I actually think kind of the opposite. But only because it's through the more lead side kind of route. Because when you have to use more of your lead side, you're going to tend to want to shift some weight into that front hip. And look at Mays. Look at all the weight he shifted into that front hip. Look, you don't have to shift a ton of weight onto your front leg. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm not really saying... we saw Ellie De La Cruz. How much weight did he shift? Who knows? But it was some, right? That's what I'm saying. Let's not get lost so much in the terminology. What I'm saying is, we know the look that I'm trying to convey. A little bit of weight shift onto the front hip, front side, whatever you want to say. That's what Mays does. Now, you can see Judge, he's hanging back on the back leg. See that? See the difference there? Right? Hanging back. Now, Judge gets away with it. That's right, gets away with it. because of his size. I counted about 15 home runs out of his 60 or so home runs. What did he have, 62 or something? I don't know. Yeah, 62, I think. What did he have? 62, right? Anyways, I counted like 15, maybe a little bit more home runs that wouldn't have been home runs in a regular sized guy. I mean, they were just barely over the fence, the right field fence usually, and clearly wouldn't have been a home run for a regular sized guy. He's not getting as much of his weight into the hit as he could. If Aaron Judge had more of a Willie Mays kind of swing, it'd be scary how many homers he would hit. And I said in my first book that we're going to see a guy hit 80 homers because they're going to be really big. They're going to combine what's really the skill of today, which is strength and speed. Everyone thinks that because strength and speed has gotten so much better, then all the skills of hitting must have gotten better. Pitch recognition must be getting better at the same rate. And swing mechanics, that must have gotten just as good too. No, I think that these levels have gone like this through the years. And right now, the strength and speed level is very high. And I knew that that was coming. And I just, referring to my first book, and I said we're going to see the first 80 homer guy. Basically what I was saying is when this strength and speed is up here and the mechanics are up there too. And we got to get the pitch recognition up there, which is also one of those skills that's very low these days due to pitching machines. So you can see the difference. Toggle your eyes back and forth. I mean, this is basically as different as a house cat is from a leopard. I mean, they're both cats. These are both swings, but very different species. Look at that lead arm of Willie Mays. Now, this is a key position, but he's only in it for like a frame, guys. It's not like we're hanging out in this lead arm compression position. It just is something you flow quickly through. It's part of the whip that happens in the swing. And look at Judge, very tight in the arms and hands. Again, go back and forth. You can see how much Judge is leaning backwards, right? Whereas Mays is he's basically using the torso rotation to at once move forward and around to sling his arms into the zone. It's more of a slinging action, whereas Judge's in today's modern swing is more of a tight pushing action. They say don't push, but then these same guys teach a very pushy swing. They don't realize what contributes to pushing. And there's Mays. Look at kind of that forward action in his torso, as opposed to the modern style where you're hanging back and you're throwing the hands forward at the ball, achieving a very disconnected position at contact. Again, it works for Judge because he is so enormous that even though he's not getting a lot of his body rotation, a lot of his body weight into the hit, it's still more body weight than the regular sized guy has, swinging absolutely perfectly because he is just so big. Another thing, so look, you can see the characteristics of the swing right there too. Look at how much he's leaning back. And then he falls over here. A lot of these guys, they fall over. Another indication that something is going wrong. You really should probably be balanced at the end of the swing in some way. If you're falling over, that to me means we've done a less than ideal action. What I love about Mays' swing is, look at that right there. What a beautiful position that is. He's forward into it. He is starting to run to first base, but notice he lets his bat travel all the way around as he's running to first base. It's like he finishes the swing as he starts his way to first base. This is probably, for you guys who are concerned about heading to first base, this would be a great swing to emulate. as far as the finish goes and as far as the whole thing goes, but the finish particularly because he's allowing the bat to move all the way around. And look at how wide that finish is. Again, look at that position of Mays. That's the key move right there that Judge is not getting. If Judge ever got this position right here, this is really the key position. That front humerus compression, letting the barrel naturally flatten. If you don't have the flexibility to get a lot of it, that's fine. But you see the difference with what Judge is doing is he's not getting that wave moving through his body. Instead, he's tensing his arms. He's essentially doing what this thing I talked about earlier in the video, where you just keep your arms kind of right where they are and you're just firing from there. He's not getting the huge advantage of allowing that wave to move up your body and let it hit your arms and get that whipping action. Whether you get this much front humerus compression or this much, you want the wave to move through. That's the key thing. You want this to kind of slap up against your body almost and get that whipping action that flattens the barrel. It's all very forced and tight with Judge, right? Look at that of Mays, positioning of Mays. The barrel is flat. The arms have dropped due to gravity. That's another thing. You don't get the advantage of gravity when your muscle's tight. If the wave is not moving through efficiently because you're too tight and you're forcing and controlling, then you don't get the use of gravity. Gravity is a huge force you can take advantage of, but you have to actually allow it to happen. Here, Mays is a little bit early and he kind of halts his body rotation, but he hit plenty of home runs doing that. It's just an adjustment. Hitting is more messy than today's instructors want it to be. That's why they're continuously confining and restricting your swing. It's because they think by doing that they get the messiness out of hitting. But, you know, look at a Willie Mays. Look at a Dave Winfield. These guys hit many home runs, many doubles and singles, way off balance. And there's his swing. Just a lot of tightness to it. I mean, look at it there too. Here they're both hitting kind of an inside pitch. You can see Mays does it with a lot more grace and fluidity. You can see Judge is kind of handcuffed there. He oftentimes gets handcuffed or you'll see him waving at pitches. This has to do with that whole stay back thing. You're going to actually end up waving at more pitches and getting more jammed more often because you don't have really the help of your body weight in the swing. You can see Mays makes that adjustment on the inside pitch just by bending that lead arm and pulling it in a little bit and achieving a nice connected position at contact and a nice fluid swing there. Another example of the swing that I advocate is the number 2 guy on the pound-for-pound list, Eric Davis. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff. Again, look at the weight shift. If he was in today's conventional swing, you would see basically his front foot land here without him shifting any more weight, and then he would just spin on that back leg. But as it is, he shifts his weight forward. Is he shifting an irresponsible, crazy amount of weight forward? No. He's just shifting some weight forward. Find out what that is, what your comfort level is for the amount of weight shift forward, but do shift weight. I mean, I would think. But if you want to do more lead side without shifting weight, then that's your way of doing it. You got to figure out what your swing style is using only your lead side. That's your first order of business. Then we'll worry about slowly adding the back arm. not letting it interfere with that structure. But look at this position by Eric Davis. This is the key position, guys. Again, you don't have to have that kind of flexibility. It's what's happening, how this position is achieved that matters. Again, just swing with just your lead arm with a small bat. I sell the lead arm training bat at theswingmechanic.com. Get yourself one of those, or use whatever small bat you can get your hands on and swing with just your lead arm and figure out what swing structure you like. Spend time doing that. But this position here is key. Beautiful. And then this is an opposite field homer that he hits. But look, has the hip moved? It moved like a foot if you look at the background, right? And that guy is saying in his speech that it shouldn't move. How are you going to explain Willie Mays? How are you going to explain Eric Davis? Those are 1 and 2 pound for pound. Eric Davis didn't play in the 50s either, so people saying, oh, he didn't face modern day pitching. I mean, guys, come on. What allowed him to hit that ball out, if he had this kind of position at contact and he was leaning back on his back leg, there's no way a guy his size, 165, 170, would ever hit the ball out. He has to get as much body weight into the hit as he can. And he does that by shifting weight. We have a little bit of time. I want to go over just a few questions. Thank you for your videos. You mentioned Goldschmidt going to driveline and screwing up his action. Driveline works for some, but not for others, I'm guessing, but I truly don't know. In your professional opinion, what are the downsides and flaws in driveline's approach to developing hitters? I'm not really an expert in driveline. I did look into their stuff. Guys, it's more of the same stuff. The only difference is they have a bunch of expensive machines that gather a bunch of data about your swing, and then they want you to think that they're tailoring an approach specifically to you with all this, whatever, 3D motion capture. I don't know if they have that, but that's typically what these guys have. And their launch angle stuff, monitors and whatever. They collect all this bat speed data, all this data, and then they say, they act like they're tailoring a routine just to you, but they pretty much give everybody the same drills. And it's the same kind of stuff. They think that you shouldn't be spinning out because that means your bat's going to drag. It's pretty much the same stuff. The hanging back on the back leg and just rotating basically on your back leg. The direction stuff, the staying in posture and throwing your hands out, trying to go the opposite way. I mean, again, a lot of instructors out there, they're operating within a paradigm that they don't even realize. It's like asking a fish to mention that the existence of water. They're so embedded in it, they don't even realize it. And driveline and all the coaches out there, they're embedded in this understanding of the swing that they just assume is correct. And so they just basically operate within that. And they might think that they're unique because they advocate for something a little bit different, but it's still within this paradigm of swing that essentially is an Aaron Judge swing. I mean, everyone's on the Skank train. I'll give Skank that. He has got everyone pretty brainwashed by what he believes is a great swing. And if people don't give Skank credit, then they just say it's Barry Bonds, who I modeled my method after. But look, Skank's method is for sure running, swing instruction these days. I'll hand it to him. But I think it's a specious claim because it's based on two guys that are huge. Barry Bonds at 240, 245, and Aaron Judge at 280. Basically the two strongest guys we've ever seen in the batter's box. That's who we're emulating right now. Let's see. This is in response to a comment I responded to. By sequence, I meant the order in which your body moves. By scap load, I was thinking about that Mookie Betts move you were mentioning. With youth hitters, those are the two biggest problems in my opinion. They start with the upper body first, and then their hands and arms get ahead of their lower half. So I think this is kind of two different things. Scap load and starting with the upper body first. I think that scap load has some merit, but I don't like necessarily loading the back arm because that kind of implies that you're going to be then releasing that load and extending hard. And it doesn't really touch on the key issue, which is that the back arm wants to overexert. It gets a lot of the first part right, but again, it implies kind of an extension that you're going to do through contact. Now, he says they start with the upper body first, and then their hands and arms get ahead of their lower half. I don't really like saying that they start with the upper body first, because this whole idea of the hips needing to fire before the upper body, that's that whole hips before shoulders thing. I don't really buy into that. I don't think that that's really necessary to think about. I think that any thought towards firing your hips before the shoulders is going to lead to more of a robotic action, which is not what you want. Do what comes naturally. Trying to fire your hips before the shoulders, that's what I have issue with. Just do what comes naturally, what feels right in that regard. And then he says, when I say keeping my chest and arms working towards center of the field, I mean swing direction and staying in posture. So that's another thing. I don't understand that. I think that, again, I hear that a lot in conventional instruction, direction and staying in posture. I just think it's more restricting. That is unnecessary. What do I think of plyometric training? Plyometrics is like basically explosion type training. I think it's wrong. So here I'm going to try to summarize what I believe your training should be as quickly as possible, because I could go on about this. I think your exercise or training, whatever you want to call it, your preparation physically for your sport, let alone baseball, just your sport. I don't actually even believe in exercising for a sport. I think exercise should be for being a human. And I think that should be to strengthen your muscles and to increase mobility. And the best way of doing that is what you should do. This idea that you should be swinging as your exercise and adding weight, that's another thing Driveline does. They add weighted bats to people's training. That's asinine, guys. And they did it for Paul Goldschmidt and guys who are veterans in the game. They're adding heavy bat training. That's asinine. That's asking for tightness and injury. These guys already do enough swings. If anything, if I was going to do heavy bat training, I'd have them do heavy bat training from the opposite side, from the side that they never swing from. So when you look at training as being basically something to increase muscle mass, but never at the expense of joint health, then the look of training becomes very different. It becomes very slow moving, and it becomes very intense still, but on the joints, in that you're working the joints. And also you don't want repetitive movement. That's also going to lead to joint pain and deterioration of joints, repetitive movements. So you want to try to vary the movements as much as you can. This is why I just think yoga is the best thing. Yoga and rings, gymnastics rings, and get in as many different positions as you can, and move slowly and work the limits of your range of motion. And that's what I think all training should be. Not this idea that you train for your sport is really irresponsible. It's so knee-jerk that I can't believe people are really falling for it and teaching it. That, oh, we're swinging, so this is what Driveline has done. So let's just have them swing heavy bats. Or, oh, we're swinging, so let's get faster at the swing, so let's just move weight through a swing action. And you see guys like pushing stuff or throwing medicine balls. Swing. That's the training for your swing. When you're not swing, and do that in training, or else you're wasting damage to your joints. When you're not, do that in your baseball training. When you're not training for baseball, then do anything but that action. Still work the same muscles doing something else. That's why I love rings so much. They work the muscles that are used in the swing, but they don't do so in a swing action. Pitching machines are useful to test swings against velocity and breaking balls when coaches can't simulate the velocity or spin. I disagree. Most of hitting a breaking ball is seeing the spin. It's one and the same. You can't separate those two. Part of a breaking ball is the hitter picking up the action, the release of the pitcher. To separate those two is only to confuse the hitter and teach him more to just stay back and punch. Basically, you're getting closer to like a bunt action, because that's what works against a pitching machine when you don't know what pitch is actually coming. And as far as velocity, again, find people in your area. There's got to be somebody who can throw to your team, whether it's someone on the team or somebody in the neighborhood. So I just don't. I'm sorry. I'm probably never going to be on the pitching machine train. I just think to miss the release of a pitcher, you're missing a huge component, the biggest component of pitch recognition, which is a huge skill in hitting. And I don't see why you would take reps without getting that kind of repetition when you could be getting that repetition. It's just too big of a thing to miss. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.